So yeah, we're here to talk about some drugs.
Drugs, yeah, I've done a little bit of that.
Yeah, me too.
Not too crazy. People think people tend to assume I'm a bigger pothead or psychonaut than what I've actually gotten up to. But
I was yeah, I
I've
was a
had some
little
fun eat the whole bag days.
right. Yeah, I was a little surprised when I got the synopsis from you. And so, we haven't done a lot of these episodes, but it's been kind of interesting where I think people with like 5 or 6 good stories is going to be more fun for me than people with like one good story or people with like 1,000 good stories. So
Yeah.
it's like you got to kind of find like get in where you
Yeah, you gotta
fit
know where the
in.
hits are.
Yeah, but where it's like tell me the couple good ones, and then like the fact that you don't remember anything from the year 2004. I mean, that's great too, but that's not we can't really distill that down
Yeah.
in
You just play a Fish album instead.
we're just gonna I'm just gonna put on a moo and you're gonna have to
Yeah.
listen to this Fish album, and it's gonna describe what happened to me in '04.
You know, it's funny. The only time I've listened to music while doing mushrooms was the only time I had a trip that was just like shitty.
Oh
It
yeah, tell
wasn't
me
even like a
about that.
bad trip. It just like sucked. It was the second time I'd done mushrooms. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. It was early, I hadn't had a lot of experience, but the first time had been amazing, but not too intense. But it was like, okay, I'm into this.
Yeah.
And then the second time, my wife at the time had left town for a few days. And I was just in this apartment, which was essentially a room with like a mattress on the floor. Like we had a couch and probably an air mattress. It was just like, we lived like refugees for a while. Well, like a romanticized version of refugees. I've seen what it actually looks like for them people. And it's not as nice as an apartment.
In a
But,
fun Tom Petty kind of way. Like
yeah,
you don't have to
yeah.
live
In a
like
fun
that
Tom
kind of
Petty.
refugee. Yeah.
I've definitely lived like that. The refugee from that song. That's like my name brand. There's like a Tom Petty on the wall up here. And so I was just kind of shuffling around the apartment. I had a laptop playing the first 4 Tom Waits albums queued up on Spotify. And was just sort of like, I had some podcast equipment set up. So I was like recording like a podcast, but I was just walking around with a loose microphone on a cord, just sort of mumbling. Oh, and I was also playing a recording of a thunderstorm because I missed rain at this point because LA, it just doesn't rain.
Sure.
And, but it was just like the visuals all sucked. Like I kept thinking I saw like rats running through the apartment. It was just like shadows, but the cat was chasing like nothing like it does. So I was like, the cat can see him and I can see him because the cat's always on drugs and I'm on drugs right now.
Yeah, then deep shit. Yeah.
I think old sad like lounge act Tom. This isn't like the God's away on business. This is like the I love you, I'm drunk Tom Waits. And, it's just like a sad rainy day full of like rat imagery. And that's the whole of that story. There's really nothing about that. Staying indoors when you do those isn't really advisable, I'd say.
No. And I mean, it can kind of go both ways. Like I remember when we used to do it in like college, we would basically we would get a hotel at this place that was like kind of like a rundown, kind of basically like any hotel that you would stay in as a road comic. And it was actually near like a venue, so I'm sure that they put comics up in there at some point. But it was this place called the Bali High, so it was like BALIHI, and we used to just go get a room there because they didn't check your ID or like want a big deposit or anything, and basically same thing. Like it was like 4 of us doing that, where it was like let's. Like everyone's kind of like pulling the trip in different directions where it's like, let's listen to music. Let's watch, let's watch The Wall or whatever, and it's like, or let's just like go outside and walk around. Like, I'll feel a lot better if we just go outside and walk around, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm way more into like a lack of distractions. I definitely don't like to do anything I've done before a lot. Like if like watching The Wall sounds awful to me. Not
It-
because it's a freaky, trippy movie, because I just like I've seen this so many times. I saw this when I was a kid, which is when you're really psychedelic, like before your brain has so much regimented structure imprinted on it.
yeah.
It's like everything is like Pink Floyd sounds awesome when you're 12 because you haven't been inside of a cubicle yet. So you're like, wow, space can be a guitar sound, and then like you don't even like kids don't need to get high and do drugs to know that like trippy weird shit's fun. Like two people love the inside of a Spencer's Gifts. People who haven't had a soul crushing job yet, children, or like a girlfriend or boyfriend that fucked them up. And then adults who are on drugs. That's who likes that kind of stuff, which is a good indicator of like drugs is just trying to like brush off some of the trauma. If you want
Yeah.
an easy way out, or you can get sober and do a lot of the spiritual or mental or emotional work and then feel that way again. But
Sure.
for the most part, if you're using a lot of drugs, you're probably trying to brush aside some trauma so you can feel as peaceful as a child again.
It's that
And,
childlike sense of wonder. You
yeah,
got to
that's
find
the
it.
great thing about drugs. They work
It's true.
until they don't. And you're in
And then you got to
trouble.
meditate, and then then
Yeah.
you got to buy a sensory deprivation chamber, and
Yeah. And then you're
like
drinking a lot of coffee and talking about what went wrong. You're just like, I know. I thought it was going to work out too. Yeah, it happens.
I'm
But
interested. I'm interested in what people have to say about the music, right? Because it's like, I mean, I've been to shows, like fucked up on stuff, and like I've been to, like festivals where we ate shrooms or whatever. But it's like, that's kind of a different thing than like, oh, we have to sit in here and listen to, the White Album or
yeah,
whatever,
well, at
right? Where
that
it's
point,
like,
the festival is and the tunes are the main event, and you're supplementing it. Like I've microdosed and listened to music with people at a party and had the time of my life. But I
sure,
also was in a good enough shape where it's like I could have rode a bike around. I wouldn't have driven a car just because it's like horribly it's the most selfish, reckless thing you can do. Is like, yeah, my judgment's impaired. Let me get behind a speeding missile. No, I drive better when I have a half a bottle of wine in me. It's like, and a little
I
bit of
just like
mushrooms.
I just
It's like,
like
no,
the
you
way you
don't.
said that. Like that's your barometer for like anything in your life where it's like, well, I could have ridden a bike if I had to, like
But I mean, like I wasn't so fucked up that like, you get real high. I
yeah,
mean, I've been so high on weed, I couldn't tie my shoe, like
sure.
it's like stay the fuck in and just be high. But
Yeah.
like if you're just on a little bit, if you're just spicing life, you're just getting a little effervescent. That's a fun time to just like, yeah, the music does sound really good. I do like you guys a lot. I mean, I don't say it enough, but I like you guys a lot, a lot. Like we should do this a lot. Not so much that it becomes a problem, but definitely more than once every 3 years. Those are fun nights. But then, I've had
Yeah.
times where it's like, we're going to eat this. We're going to eat way too much of this. This is enough drugs for like 7 people to have one of those. I like you guys a lot nights. And let's have, let's try to touch God's butthole.
Sure. Yeah.
And that can be.
God, I remember doing like some weird stuff too. Like even, I don't know if you've ever actually tried to smoke mushrooms before.
That sounds like a horrible idea.
It was a really bad idea, but you
Did
can
it
actually,
work even?
well, you can, like if you get a big enough stem that's hollow, you can actually get it to like cherry, like around the edges, and
That
like
sounds like a good way to get fungus in your lung.
smoke it like a cigar. Oh, I'm gonna die. I mean, this is early 20s where like
That's
you're
why you don't have
literally
COVID.
unstoppable.
You're fine. You got a mushroom lung.
Yeah, it's like this is
Thanks.
nothing compared to what we've seen.
Yeah.
But
It's keeping you safe like John Leguizamo in the Mario movie. That fungus has got your back, man.
it worked though. Like, I mean, you don't really know how it's gonna like enter your bloodstream that way, but it does. And I got really, really high from that. Yeah, like probably like top 5 from that.
Wow.
So, and that was like at a party though, where there's like just too much. Like, I don't know if you've ever, because I mean, my big thing was I like to drink, right? And then it's like if you had psychedelics on, and then you can just drink your face off, and like you won't really notice it until the psychedelics wear off, and then you're like, Jesus Christ, how did I get so drunk? And it's like, oh well, I drank 25 Bud Lights because it like tasted good and I liked the bubbles. And it was
Yeah.
literally, and it was doing nothing at all to me until
Alcohol does not mix
no,
well with
it's bad.
anything.
It's bad.
Like the only time I've ever blacked out, and it wasn't even severe, it was just like parts were like, you know, it was like a puzzle with 7 missing pieces, you know, and
Sure.
some of them had coffee spilled on them. You're like, I get the picture, but man, it's not really all there, is it? Was from drinking and then smoking a shitload of weed and drinking a shit, just being too drunk and too high. Like
Yeah.
I've been reprehensibly drunk and still had, unfortunately, a crystal clear memory of every fucking embarrassing thing about that evening.
See,
This
and
time it was just like, you know, every time I've done it, weed and booze, I'm just like, I don't know. I got home. No one's mad at me, I guess. I woke up in the tub again. That's my like bad night. If I wake up in the bathtub, I've done that like 6 times in the last year and a half,
well, yeah.
2 years now.
I mean, I don't, I used to black out. So like, you know, like I quit drinking a while back and I used to black out quite a bit. Um, and I, you know, like I've kind of been hesitant to tell this story on the podcast, but, uh, my buddies and I went, to see Dave Matthews at the Gorge.
I know where you went to see him. Yeah.
Yeah, at the Gorge in Washington
Dave at the
State.
Gorge, man. Dave at the Gorge.
Yeah, it was a thing. It was a scene there for a while, and we went several times. But the last time that I probably the last time I did mushrooms was I drank all day long, and then on the way to the concert, my buddy handed me like 3 chocolates with mushrooms in them, and was like, "Here, take these." And I remember like walking across the gravel path, and like literally the gravel started to look like the bottom of a swimming pool when like on a
Yeah.
sunny day. And then the next thing I know, people are yelling like encore, encore. And I completely missed the entire show. Like I was there, I was awake, I was alive. I have no idea what
You have
happened. I
no
couldn't.
memories?
No, it's just like completely
Oh,
like
man.
it was like, you know, you took a piece of tape and spliced it, right? And
Wow. Did you feel good after?
you know, I didn't feel bad after. Like there was
Oh,
very few casualties because again, like you were saying, where it's like, oh, no one's mad at me. You know, like I didn't do anything
yeah. Yeah.
crazy. Like I have all my clothes on, so that's a good,
No,
you know.
that's always a great. Yeah.
But
My dick wasn't out. It's like a great, like, most of the time, if your dick stayed in your pants the whole night and the car's not crashed,
yeah,
you could patch anything that you might have done up with words.
sure, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The one casualty of the whole thing is my friend Kimmy had not come to the show with us because she lived in Bellingham, and she had shown up like later in the day, but after I had stopped making short-term memories. And so I
Oh,
kept
great.
turning around and seeing her and being like, Kimmy, when did you get here? And she'd be like, I came with Lauren. And then apparently like 20 minutes later, I turn around and be like, holy shit, Kimmy's here. How long have you been here? Why haven't I seen you? To the point where I did that enough times. And like the last, like once I browned back in, basically the
Yeah.
first time while I'm actually making short-term memories, I turned around and was like, Kimmy. And she was like, just shut the fuck up and leave me alone. Like you're
Aw.
literally ruining my day with this. Like this isn't funny anymore. Like she
She
really
wasn't like,
just,
wow, he's always happy to see me. That's what I feel like. Wow, this person has been excited to see me 24 consecutive times.
she really thought I was like really playing a long con on this one,
That'd
you
be a
know, like,
great bit. God damn.
but I was not making short-term memories, and I have no recollection of literally like I saw the last song that he played, you know, like he did Satellite and went home, and we walked back to the campsite and everyone else was like partied out. And I was like, no, I'm fine now. Like I'm ready. Like if I feel like I'm like back at square one after whatever the hell just happened today that I mean, it was literally light outside when it started and dark by the time I came back. And I don't remember any of it.
That's what's great about mushrooms is like when you're done, even though it's like a big intense thing sometimes, I usually feel like I just took a nap. I'm always like, let's go do something. You guys want to
Yeah.
get a pizza and watch a movie, make some friends?
Yeah.
It's like
Nothing else is
fucking
like
brilliant.
that. you know? I mean, there's
Yeah,
not.
no, everything else has like this horrible like physical toll. Even
Yeah.
acid, like you feel
Oof.
tense because it can be. I've had acid twice, and it was bad acid. It wasn't bad, like I went crazy, and it just like lights looked kind of good. Things were a little bit funnier, and I wanted to crack a molar because it was like so goddamn speedy. I was like, yeah, there's no
Oh
like
yeah.
big truth or psychoanalysis going on right now. I'm just like kind of
My,
angsty, and my neck's all tight.
my neck.
Just
Yeah, I was
licking
just
my
about to say,
face.
like my neck hurts. I feel like my like spine is like pushing into the bottom of my brain, like that
Yeah, it
whole
feels like
feeling.
uppers, like that same horrible thing where it's like once in a while I have like an Adderall to like get my life together. And mostly I end up focused intensely on the wrong thing. And then I'm lying in bed like, I'm a flexed muscle. My whole existence is a flexed muscle in an MMA gym. And it's just like, damn, what do I take to get down off this? That's how
I
you end
am
up
a
Johnny
calf
Cash.
after 2 hours on the Peloton. Look at this
Yeah,
calf.
basically. I'm a giant puddle of lactic acid. I'm God's angry hard on. Come. I don't like that feeling at all.
No, that's not a lot of fun. So tell
No.
me, God's angry heart on. I feel like is probably like that's should be your album title or something. I don't know. Like that's
Ugh.
God's angry heart on
That's just my new Twitter
2020.
persona.
Yeah, well, that's actually that could be. There's a lot of ways
Probably
you could
better
go
than
with
my
that.
actual Twitter. My Twitter would benefit from not having my face and name attached to it. Like if I was like, chronically depressed nematode, a little
Right.
cartoon, like not using punctuation, the nonsense I like to say on there would do better. But that's another thing.
I
Should we
understand.
talk about intense drug usage? The craziest time I'd had on mushrooms was me and a couple comedians. I'm not going to name anyone for several reasons,
Sure.
complicity, and just a lot's changed with some of these folks. And the friend of theirs, this two dudes I knew and this girl from film school they knew who I just met, who was very nice. Well, went for like a hike up in Santa Clarita and we got these mushrooms. They looked like they were like long as shit. They looked like a sperm kind of. They were like real long and had a real curve. I'd never like every time I get mushrooms, they look a little different. And these ones where I was like, this is bullshit. Someone just sold us arts and crafts supplies. What the fuck is this?
Just the setup of like two friends and their friend from film school is like such like a Wes Anderson like movie
Oh, it
plot,
was
like, and we're
total.
gonna go
Yeah.
hiking in Santa Clarita, like
Yeah, and
I
I'm
don't know.
wearing like a big Vietnam jacket. I look like fucking Joaquin Phoenix in the goddamn Inherent Vice movie. I'm like wearing that outfit essentially. I was real big in like Vietnam hippie at the time. And
Lieutenant
like
Dan.
I remember once we were like high as shit when they finally hit, and I was the least dressed for hiking, but none of us looked like. At just one point, one of my friend, we'll call him Jim, he goes, "It's very clear what's going on here," to anyone passing by. I was like, whatever, man. But we drove like an hour, not too far outside of Los Angeles. Found some hiking trail that was supposed to have a waterfall at the end.
Okay.
Thinking, great, we'll take these. We'll hike. It's a short hike. We'll get to see waterfall. Once those start kicking in, this is going to be fantastic. 4 hours later, we're lost on a trail that only goes in and out. So remarkable to have two directions to pick from, and you're not sure which one you've been walking all day. And we did not see a waterfall. The whole thing,
No?
like, no, we got to the parking lot. We went to a little hill. I took the drugs, the mushrooms, chewed them up. I always eat them with like a toffee bar. Like I get like a Score or a Heath bar to kind of help offset that horrible taste. And I slammed it down with an orange juice.
There you go.
And then we're just hiking. And all of a sudden you're just like, man, everything's really interesting. Like fucking leaves, man. Leaves are where it's at. Nah, fuck leaves. Bark. Have you seen bark, man? Bark is fucking out. Bark is doing it today. Like every tree, like any textural pattern, like leaves on the ground or bark on the tree, it would look like a sea of like black and white, high contrast, like those photos of everyone freaking out for the Beatles, or those collages of like famous
Oh
people
yeah.
from the 60s all pasted it, like the Sergeant Pepper's cover. Everything just looked like a shitload of smiling faces.
Oh yeah.
But if you went around to the dark side of the tree where the shadow instead of the light hit it, the faces would get sadder until they just turned into like decaying zombie faces. And when I'm tripping, like I just think like I always stave off like a real bad trip because if something scary and bad happens, I just go, cool. I'm glad that's happening. I just like think of it as like, great, we're watching a horror movie now. Like I'm not gonna let some weird shit put me in a bad mood. I've been inside a hot topic without getting scared. I can handle this.
Sure.
And then I would just like kept looking around, like moving around the tree. And friends like, what are you doing? I was like, this tree. Everyone is on this tree, man. Judy Garland's on this fucking tree. There's Abe Lincoln. There's John Lennon. Like it's like fucking. And then they're all zombies. And then the leaves were doing it, and it was just like got so much. We were getting so fucked up. We had to sit down. And then I was sitting there holding a rock in my right hand, but I could feel it in my left hand. Like my brain had gotten hemisphere confused about all my tactile senses. So like I'm watching this rock roll around in my right hand, and I can't even, my right hand feels like it's sitting motionless. And I'm having the sensation of my left hand having a pebble rolling around inside of it. And it's just like, this is fucking, and that was at that point, that was the most insane I'd been. You know, I'd seen colors and the walls breathing and laughed at things that weren't funny before, but this was like, man, my brain is like really going through it. And then
My
like the
wires are
auditory
crossed.
shit. Yeah. I love when the audio kicks in. Like this girl we were with, she loved the word interesting, you know, and things were
Mm,
becoming very interesting. And she'd say it twice. It was like kind of a verbal tick she had. She'd go, interesting, interesting. And then that would like reverberate, like
sure.
echo.
Carry down the mountain.
Yeah, but like not in real life, just in my fucking drug-addled brain. And with every repeat of the like the delay or echo that my brain was giving her voice, it would speed up and raise in pitch, like a like a movie would do about being on drugs. And like interesting, interesting, interesting. Every sound. And it was just like a fucking hippie movie, pinwheels. We're walking around, having so much fun. Like I kept getting way ahead of everyone because I got like spider legs. Like I'm 6'1" and 90% of it's just leg. Like if I was a woman, I'd be a model, but I'm just some schlubby dude. And like I kept getting ahead, and they'd be like, Rick, and they'd look back, and anytime like my group of 3 friends, like in a tree trunk or something, got between my line of sight and them, like my brain couldn't calculate for where they should be when they were visible again. So it would always blow my mind. It's like, whoa, you guys moved way further than I thought you were gonna come out of that tree. And things were going great until like at some point, I just remember putting my hand on this tree trunk, and then like everything went bright white. Like I was like, I'm not feeling great. That's what I said. And then I held this tree trunk. And then the next thing I remember, it was like I was in like one of those places where you do like a photo shoot or a music video where it's like you can't tell where the walls are. It's just an expanse. Like before all the guns show up when he's in the Matrix.
Sure.
Like that catalog room. And then like the sound was just like a dull roar. It kind of felt like looking into a light bulb while standing at Niagara Falls. It was just like, but then I had this internal monologue of all this like hippy dippy, like spiritual shit, like time's an illusion, all the regular hallmarks of like DMT or heavy mushroom usage or any of that. Like we're all God, like all the great
Sure.
religious,
Yeah.
spiritual mumbo jumbo. But I was really
Yeah.
feeling it. I was like, all right. Yeah, man. And that went on for about 2,000 years. And then the next thing I remembered, like I could see myself out of body.
Oh.
Like, which I'm very scientific. So I'm like, I guess my brain just like, I know how to imagine what I'd look like wearing what I was wearing in that place. But my entire memory of it and recollection is seeing myself with my hand on that tree and then doing like that lurching hiccup and then just vomiting
Oh
an
yeah.
arc.
I
A
knew that was
huge,
coming.
it's like
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
I've been chugging water like a maniac because I was like, I don't want to get dehydrated. It's pretty hot out. And like, in a very small amount of time, I'd slammed like a gallon. And I just puked this iridescent arc of water, and it looked like a Vine video that was just on like a 3-second loop of just and then the next thing I remember, I'm just walking down the trail with everyone, and my buddy puts his hand on my shoulder and he goes, "Hey, you're all right, man?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm great. Did I throw up?" And he goes, "Yeah, a lot." I was like, "Cool." And that's when everything got bad. Then we, like, I don't remember doing this, but I guess I was the guy who was like, "We're all dead."
Oh, fun.
Yeah, that's who you don't want to be. But it felt like it. I tried calling my wife, like broke my no phone rule. I was like, I gotta call her and let her know I'm dead. Like, she's
Oh
gonna be
yeah.
fucking pissed, but she deserves to know. She's at work busy, and I'm like, hey, we tried to go see a waterfall, but it's too hot for her. Well, we're all dead anyway. And then later when I talked to her, she's like, yeah, I was so busy, I wasn't paying attention to what you're saying. I was like, oh, that's good, because I had a lot of crazy stuff to say about this.
She didn't buy it? That you were
She
dead?
just,
She didn't.
no, she just didn't listen. I mean, it's
She
why
didn't
she
run with it.
doesn't
It
live
was like,
here
oh
anymore.
fuck, I gotta go. Rick's dead. I
No,
gotta
she's like,
take her
okay,
apron off.
bye. No, because she didn't listen. She never listened to anything I said because I talked too much, probably. And so I just was, dead. I mean, also, like, you ever try to use a cell phone on that? They just like fold around your hand and
Oof.
melt. Nothing works, right? It's getting bad service anyway.
Yeah, it's like a clock in a dream. It's like everything you
Yeah.
look at is like,
Trying to read a book, and you're like, huh?
this
I can't read
screen.
Esperanto.
Yeah, this doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I mean, it's been so long for me since I've even done any that like iPhones weren't a thing. I mean, cell phones were a thing. I remember
they were negligible though, probably.
Yeah, but I remember like taking mushrooms in like Spokane, Washington, and watching Unbreakable, like the
oh yeah, where Samuel Jackson's got glass bones.
yeah, and then my buddy was like, oh, my mom just called. I just talked to my mom for like an hour, and I had a great time. And I was like, man, you do drugs different than me, man, because I would not do that like at all.
You want to talk to your mom?
No, that doesn't.
I always try to get my mom to do them. She won't.
Yeah.
That was the first time I did mushrooms. My big takeaway was I called my mom and was like, I earnestly forgive you for all these things you've done wrong.
There you go.
And then she's like, well, I can never forgive myself. I was like, well, you need to do mushrooms.
You need to be where I'm at.
Yeah.
So the time you were all dead, like just something you mentioned, like that became a catchphrase, where you were like, I wasn't afraid of looking at the other side of the tree, where everything was like sad or whatever. And that was one thing that I used to always say was like, this is what I paid my $10 for, where it was like when people would like legit get afraid of whatever. And it was like, no, this is what you paid your $10 for. Like, you just need to ride this out.
Yeah. I'm always like this. I'm just like, let it come. It's the same way I felt when I was a kid. I hated roller coasters and I always fight like against what it was doing.
Yeah.
And it would make it worse. And then someone was like, you got to relax and just trust that they built the ride in a way it won't kill you and you'll have a lot more fun. And then so I would just like kind of relax in the car. I was like, oh, it's scary a little bit, but it's like, it's fun. And basically the thing is you're just putting faith in that. In the roller coasters case, you're putting faith in, these theme park carnies. And, but even if it's good or not, it's like, what are you going to do? Really? You're already on it. Like, you having a bad time and holding tight and screaming that my thing didn't latch is not going to make the ride any safer. Like, what do you think your grip strength is? 3 G's?
That literally happened to me. Like, where were we? Not Knott's Berry Farm, but what's the one in San Francisco, Santa Clara? It's like Great America. We were at Great America, like on this wooden roller coaster, and the dude just like did not latch mine. And I'm a big guy, so I'm like, you got to push, like put your shoulder into it a little bit, guy. And he just like walked by and touched it. And I was like, hey, like I'm not. And I probably, I mean, it wasn't like a loop-de-loop or anything, but I probably could have fallen out. It was like a fast, like old wooden one, but it was like,
I've
Okay.
had a loose bar on Raging Bull at the Six Flags outside of Chicago. And
Okay.
it can be, yeah, you're like, that doesn't go upside down or anything too, but it was like, man, I'm really sliding. Like my knees are what's catching, you know? I'm like, I shouldn't be able to piss out of this roller coaster. And that's a little bit terrifying. That's kind
Well,
of where we felt like we were at. Like maybe we didn't latch the trip. Maybe we're all going to fall out.
yeah, this $10 is our last $10. You never know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got into an argument about which direction. You know, it's that point where it's like you're like, we got to get back to the car. Like every like group trip that's outside seems to have that moment where you agree, like the car will know what to do. I mean, that's
Sure.
how we got here, man. Like, and also like when you're like totally submerged in nature, like nothing. It's very random the way nature, you know. I'm sure someone who studied fractals and tree growth, to them it's a pattern, but for most lay people, when you go outside, it's, you know, we'd never been to this trail before, so there was nothing recognizable to us. Everything was a brand new site, so it was like there's no frame of reference aside from what little we knew about trees.
Sure.
And then like up on this mountain, every once in a while, a car would drive on a road on it, and it would look like it was a UFO or something because it was so out of place against all the nature. This shiny metal object with right angles. You were like, ugh, who would make such a thing? And why is it way up there near the sky? And then once in a while, we'd come across like a marker post or metal rod, and like, all right, people made this. People still exist. We haven't somehow fallen through a dimension where we're just hunter gatherers who don't know what the fuck we're doing. And then these signs started to have numbers on them. And I was like, look, there's numbers on this, you know. And then my friend goes, well, they're counting down. I go, great. It's great. They're counting down. They got to be, you know, there's numbers on it. And he just says the most drugged out thing. What does that even mean, man? And that's when I lost. I go, it has to mean something. We're going to keep walking until that number gets to zero. And I hope the car is there. You know, I mean, that's when you're at the point where you're like, I don't want to be a fascist or anything, but we all got to agree on something. And I think
Yeah.
we should go that way. You know, at one point, humanity gathered around the idea of north so that you could give people fucking directions. And that seemed to work out okay.
So far, so good. Yeah.
Yeah. So we wound up back at the car, and we were all still way too fucked up on drugs to do anything about it. And then you're just like sitting around waiting to sober up. Like, is this forever? Is this going to be, you know, I'm trying to like correlate memories with people. I'm like, hey, we went to New York a few years ago together, right? That's real? It's like, yes. I'm like, we're real. Like, I knew you before. Yeah.
I knew you before. I like that.
All right. I got my eye on you. But
Yeah.
I think maybe we did. And then I was really freaking out for a while because I was like, man, what if I don't come? Like, what if I fucked my brain up? I'm already kind of a weird guy. And then I just came to the conclusion. I was like, you know what? If this shit doesn't stop, I'm just going to concentrate really hard on doing what regular people do. I'm just going to get in that fucking car. We're going to drive back to Hollywood. I'm going to clean up my shitty little apartment. I'm going to pay a bill. I'm going to go to my job. I'm going to do my taxes. I'm going to do open mics. I'm going to go to restaurants. I'm going to laugh at things I don't think are funny so people feel good. And
Yeah.
some days I'm like, am I just pretending?
This
I
whole
mean, is
time.
sanity just like, you're just like, just run the same program. Just
Yeah.
run the regular guy program. Don't be in the mushroom woods.
You're awake now. Just
Yeah.
you're awake. So let's go.
I don't
Go to the
remember thinking
place.
that
Do
like
the thing.
the moment where I was like, oh, you're going to come down from this was I had to pee at a porta potty and I was pissing on someone else's turd and it was just rolling around, turning in the water. And I was just laughing. I was like, man, what is life but pissing on someone else's shit? And I was like, you're going to be fine. But I saw faces in my floorboards for like another 12 hours. Like I woke up and was still seeing them. I was like, God, it
That
took
was a
like a
lot.
couple days before I was like, all right, let's get some of the mystic shroud off of me. I got regular shit I have to do.
Yeah, you don't want to go too far down the like, am I gonna pull out of this? You know, like,
Yeah.
is this just who I am now? Is this my brain now? Like, that's never a good feeling. Like,
Yeah,
are
you're
we?
the egg in the pan.
Yeah. This is my brain on drugs, and there's no way to uncrack this egg. Like, we're just gonna go with it. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, at that point, you just got to start whipping up some hollandaise.
Go with it. Yeah.
Yeah, you just,
Life gives you eggs.
get some
Make eggs
scallions.
Benedicts.
Yeah, dice some tomatoes, make that shit, make a meal of it. Do some huevos rancheros, man. Just fucking make it a party. I mean, I was essentially like, oh, if I'm gonna go crazy, I'm just gonna be, someone will figure it out. I'll just live in an institution and paint oranges all day. I don't, who gives a shit? Was it really? I mean, it beat being poor as fuck while pursuing my stupid dreams anyway. I mean, I probably should have just went insane that day. Be like Sid Barrett or something.
It's all about
It
having a
put me off
plan.
of them for a while though. It
Yeah.
was, yeah. Then if like a year or two, a couple years later, my buddy who I'd done mushrooms with the first time and his wife came into town and she had some good little like Liberty caps, some Pacific Northwest, I guess. It was like a handful of these tiny little mushrooms. We drove up to Point Dume, which is up in Malibu. It's like commercials are shot there, a lot of movies. Anytime there's like a movie or commercial or TV show where they're on a beach and there's like a big cliff sticking out in the water.
Oh yeah.
That's Point Dume. And you could park right out next to the beach. And we did that. And then we took this hiking trail and some like metal steps down. It's like we had to go way up, walk through this field of wildflowers, and then like take these stairs down to a different beach that was much narrower, full of rocks, and had a lot of seals hanging around in the water. But there wasn't so many people. And we're like, well, this will be a pretty decent place to avoid a lot of foot traffic. And we found a blank spot on the beach up against the cliff, and then ate all the mushrooms, and we're getting settled in, and look over, and there is a dead seal right next to us that we had, it just looked like a rock or something, or like it might have, we just didn't notice a whole
Maybe it was a
dead
live seal
seal
20 minutes earlier.
Yeah, who knows? And I remember me and my buddy Ben looked at it, and I was like, well, that might be a problem later. And he's like, or he said it might be a problem later. And I was like, it'll be fine. Same thing. Like, this is what we paid $10 for.
Yeah. To have this glaring example of my own mortality.
Yeah.
Right here.
I'm already nervous dipping my feet back into let's eat a whole let's do 7 grams water again. Like, I don't got much more of this Terrence McKenna shit in me. And that went, everything was going great. Those were real fun. Like, the ocean sounded like a techno song or something. Everything had a real digital, like the audio to that was great. The sky was just like full of like cool, wispy geometric patterns. It was like everything felt really like loving and nice, not like warm and cuddly, but just like, hey man, it's crisp. It's cool out here. You're gonna be fine. And then, at some point I was like, I've been too much looking at shit. And I just put my hat over my head and, like, not a nap, but just kind of like closed my eyes and chilled for a while. And then this crow came along, and I woke up and took the hat off, and I looked at that seal and it was still dead, but a crow was standing on its head. And then the crow just dives its beak into its eyeball and plucks it out. Like, it's just swinging the viscera around its beak, trying to get the whole thing in its mouth. And I look over, and my buddy Ben, who is he's more prone to freaking out than me. Like, he gets overwhelmed, and dark stuff is not as much funny to him as it is me. And I just look, and he's like paralyzed, and he just goes, oh. Like, he's hating this visual. He's staring right at it. And I looked at him, I looked at the seal, and I just went, hey, take it easy, Edgar Allan Poe. And the bird flew off. I flew up onto the cliff and like started throwing little rocks down it at us. And then those are fucking echoing, and we're laughing at that. And it was so funny to call at the time. It seemed so funny that we called the seal Edgar Allan Poe. And then, it was nice. We started coming down from that. He brought this shitty little acoustic guitar, and I just kept playing the same 3 chords over and over again to try and like, that moment where like after the long introspective silence, like everyone's like, maybe we'll start talking again. And I was just like singing like every song I could think of the words to. They're all the same 3 chords. That's basically, I was like, every song's the same 3 chords. Like, Wagon Wheel is every Bob Dylan song, is every song by every band you ever heard. Sure. Man, just going down the whole, this is the Great American Songbook, G, C, and D, sometimes A minor, whatever, dude. Guitar is just invented so that some guy could try and hook up with a girl who had a Beatles patch on her jacket, man. But then I'm telling this whole cockamamie story about this kid, Kevin. He learned to play guitar from a guy named Dave at the record store who has a funny smelling jacket. Because this girl named Tiffany in his math class, she's just, she sewed some patches on her jacket because she's into bands and Kevin's into Tiffany. So he's learning 3 chords. And Dave just wants to talk about the circle of fifths all day. And he's tuning the guitar. And Kevin's like, I don't fucking care about the circle of fifths, Dave. I just need to know how to play Hey Jude so I could try and finger fuck Tiffany on the school bus. And Dave doesn't care, and Kevin's stressed out, and he's trying to learn songs, and nobody's asking Tiffany what the fuck she wants to do. Maybe she wants to play the fucking guitar, and that's why she sewed the patches on her jacket in the first place. And then I went on this like whole fucking tale of Kevin learning the guitar and him trying to talk to a girl, Tiffany, and why is it so hard for guys to talk to? Here's say hi. He's learning the circle of fifths. So you just go, hi, I like your patches. But guys are dumb. So Kevin's learning guitar from Dave at the record store, and Tiffany's walking around with patches on her jacket. And then she graduated school and moved out to LA to be an actress. That didn't work out. And then joined some fucking religious sect up in Washington, a bunch of goddamn breatharians. They're just out there breathing air, and that's how they live. I guess sunlight, air, and water is all they need. And she traveled through Europe, wound up in Germany with some heavier breatharians. No one knows where the fuck Tiffany is anymore. She's just out there breathing the goddamn air. Turns out one day Kevin finally did talk to her in high school about the jacket with the patches after he poorly played a Beatles song for her. And she goes, yeah, I don't really know who they are. This is my Uncle Dave's jacket. Your Uncle Dave, the guy from the record store who taught me guitar? Yeah, fuck. And anyway, this whole nonsense story is like spilling out of us. We're laughing our heads off. And then we decide we got to piss, and that you can't just piss into the ocean. You have to be in the ocean pissing, which took a long time to explain to my buddy Ben. He was like, I got to pee. I'm going to go. I was like, you can't swim in that water. First of all, you're wearing jeans. We didn't bring bathing suits. We came to the beach to be on drugs, not swim. Next of all, it's like rocky ass. No one can swim here. It's a no swimming beach. It's for seals to shit and fuck in.
And die. And
he's like, well, I was just going to pee into it. And then I was like, you can't just whip your dick out and start pissing into the ocean. There's people around. And that mushroom brain is like, well, why not? It's where all the water ends up anyway. And I'm like, yeah, it is a good point, man. Why can't we piss in the fucking ocean? Because I know for a fact 30 miles down the coast, there's a sewage treatment plant, and they're just putting the piss right back into the fucking ocean. You tell me it's illegal to piss in this ocean because they don't want us cutting out the middleman. It has nothing to do with indecent exposure. It's just your piss makes a guy in Long Beach about $20.
This is the plumbers union. It's the long con of the plumbers union.
And so on this conspiracy brained fucking trip, and we're like, let's walk back up the rusty staircase, and we'll get to the side of the beach with the bathrooms. So we're coming up those stairs. I've just finished this insane story about Tiffany the breatharian, who,
it sounds like a Tom Petty song, by the way.
Yeah, it was just, that's the way my brain works, I guess. Yeah. And
it could have very easily been on Full Moon Fever.
Yeah, great. All right, now we've come to the middle of the record. For the people who are listening on tape or a record player, this is the time for them to get up and turn the record over. We get to the top of the stairs, and there's this like middle-aged woman with a brood of children. She's got like 4 or 5 kids, it seems like. Young, and some of them are a little bit older. And there's this little boy who's real excited. Mom, when I get down to the beach, and he's listening to all the shit he's going to do with the ocean. And then she's not really paying attention. And she looks real preoccupied. She's like darting her head around. And then she goes, hold on. Where's Tiffany? And then my buddy Ben goes, oh. And then like in one of those, you ever had those moments where like you're the Fonz for like 12 seconds? And you're just like, do the cool. And I just looked right at her and I go, she's probably just out breathing there somewhere. And then Ben like stumbled forward, cackling like a fool. And we just walked through all these flowers and then took a piss and then sat on a different beach. And Then I just made fun of the sunset.
Yeah.
I got, yeah, I mean, because we were having fun. You know, a bunch of dad jokes first. Ben's like, "Hey, thanks for setting this up for us." I go, "Oh yeah, I had to pay extra for that." And then I used to do it as a bit sometimes. It's more one of those like bits you have in life. It's like funnier if you're with your friends. Like when the sun sets, I go like, "Fuck you! You think you're so great because you go away every day? Nobody gives a shit. You got to turn it purple and orange every time. You don't even go anywhere. You just stay put. We're turning our back on you." Fucking setting sun. Get the fuck out. We're going to see what the moon's up to because we're bored of your shit. That was a good time. Like
yeah.
Heckling the sun.
Heckle the sun. Fuck the sun.
Yeah, fuck the sun. I hate it too.
Long live the fucking beast.
Yeah.
I like that. Tiffany the Aryan. What is it?
Yeah, the Breatharian.
Breatharian.
Tiffany's an Aryan ass name too, though.
Sort of. Well, when you said she went to Germany, I was like, maybe like she was a real Aryan, but okay. Yeah, Tiffany the Breatharian. I do like that description of you were the Fonz for 12 seconds.
Yeah, you know, like because those stories sound like crazy later because you're like, you weren't that cool. But once in a while, you just say it. You just say some ball and shit, and it works out. And it's an inside joke between 3 people and not the other 8 people that are standing there dumbfounded. I mean, that lady probably was actually looking for her kid and was probably I mean, she was definitely had it. It was it was a complete synchronicity. You know, I mean, that's like some heavy Jungian shit. Where you're like, oh, we're on this mystical exploration of this collective subconscious and ourselves. And then you spend like what may have been 30 minutes or 3 hours. It's hard to track time on that, but an inordinate amount of time making up a silly little story about a girl named Tiffany. That also a big part of the story was that no one knows where she is these days. She's just out there breathing the air. That's what I kept saying, you know, but everyone lost track of Tiffany. She's just out there breathing the air somewhere. Then we get to the top of the stairs and it's, where's Tiffany? And it broke poor Ben. He was like, I'm not ready for this much coincidence. And by, just through the grace of the mushroom gods, I was able to hold it together enough to go, she's just out there breathing the air somewhere.
Which I'm sure was quite comforting for her family.
I'm sure the mother was like, I mean, at this point I had completed the Doc Spatello outfit and now I had a straw hat with my Vietnam Army jacket and shit. And then I gave that jacket to this woman who runs a thrift store so she wouldn't go out of business in the pandemic. The hubris to think that my one vintage jacket saved brick and mortar during this year.
This is going to do it for you. This is going to save you. This
jacket weirdo.
That's awesome. I love all of this. These are great. It's about that time. Speaking of Twitter, tell people where they can find Rick Wood. What else you got going on? You got the music stuff, comedy stuff. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram is @RickWood, but the O's and Wood are zeros.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of a disaster on Twitter. Twitter always gets me in trouble. I forget that people just read that and think something of it. To me, it's like Twitter is like a bathroom wall of a bar that's on fire. Like, just write anything. Who gives a shit? I mean, it's not like offensive or bad stuff. It's just like once in a while, a normal person I know will find it. Like I dated this girl and she just calls me up. I found your Twitter. I was like, I don't care.
Like, is your porn stash? Like, I found your Twitter.
What are these? What is this? Is this who you are? Like, no.
Weird shit you're into.
Yeah.
I found your OnlyFans.
Yeah, no shit. That'd be one to find. I should get on OnlyFans, but it's just me like apologizing and listening to people's days. It's like the services boyfriends don't provide. It's like, yeah, I'll stop tweeting about baseball long enough to understand why you've been slighted. Hey, I'm good at that shit.
Someone will pay $7 a month for that.
Yeah. So I'm on those for that. And then, got some music under a band name called the Earth Satellites, and February 14th, we have a new record that is, I guess, drop now. They don't come out; they just drop.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, that'll be on all the streaming services.
Nice.
Comedy. I mean, it's not really happening much now, and I don't think I'm going to do it anymore either.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been 10 years with like no discernible move. Like I haven't made a first down.
Are we breaking this story that Rick Wood
No, I've been complaining about this for
retiring
months.
from comedy?
Anyone want to see retiring? You have to, in order to retire, you have to have had the job.
This is fucking Tom Brady walking away.
I mean, like, I don't know. I never had a JFL audition, let alone the showcase, the New Faces showcase. So it's like,
I got an audition once.
Well, that would have been enough to keep me in it. But
yeah, it was 3 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So you should keep going. They know you exist. I was very good at comedy. I mean, I think, there weren't a lot of nights where I went home feeling bad about it. Like, I would see people bomb and be like, God damn, if I bombed as much as some of my friends do, I'm almost like more proud of them. Where I'm like, how do you work up the nerve
the perseverance
with something night after night? This is unbelievable. I mean, I'm not trying to talk shit here, but like the thing about some of the comics I know, it's like there's a weird perversion to being able to get this defeated over. Like 6 times of that shit, I think I'd be like, I mean, a set with no laughs. That's got to be. Even the worst bombs I've had, like someone chuckled at something, even if it was me making fun of how bad I was doing. There was at least like some release of like, all right, well, at least they know that you knew it was bad. But I've seen some folks, go for 6 years of just like dead silence. Like, what is your emotional support group like? Because that is something I don't think I've ever had access to. You should be climbing Everest, not this shit.
Well, when it comes back, you're gonna keep doing comedy. We're gonna do comedy together. And what's the name of the album? The Earth Satellites. What's the album called?
Oh, the new album's called Feral Hearts.
Feral Hearts.
It's just a lot of like falling in and out of love and breaking up. It's just some Tom Petty ass shit.
There you go, Dave and
every track
Tiffany
is don't do me like that.
I love it. There's nothing wrong with that. I think you won't hear me complain about it ever. I love it.
I mean, it's I like a lot of music, but I spent the quarantine basically being like, man, I'm just gonna jam on some classic rock vibes and rope some friends into playing on the fucking thing. All remote, just sending files back and forth.
I love it. It
worked.
Well, yeah, check that out. Follow Rick Wood. He's a wonderful man. And that's our episode. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to me. Hope some of that made sense. If not, just chop it all up and put reverb on it, and they'll be like, you're on mushrooms.
You're on mushrooms.
God, I'd like to get on some acid that works, though.
Yeah. Well, we're uploading. Here we go. That was fun. That was perfect. 1:15.
Yeah. My big thing I've noticed with this Zencaster is to keep the person on the line a little bit after so that the file has time to upload.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a few people in a hurry slam the laptop and then I lost it.
Yeah, I was mindful of that the last time I did this too, where I was like, oh, what's happening? And then because it tells you on your end when you're uploading, right?
Yep, I'm at 20% here.
Great. Yeah. I haven't listened to the last episode. Like I said, I think I'm getting a bonus at work tomorrow for like $700 from like some move thing so they built us a new office building, and then we're like, because you were a part of this move, we're going to give you an incentive. And then everyone started working from home before the move. And they're like, well, we can't really fuck you on this incentive that we promised you. And I was like, no, you totally could. I mean, but
here's you definitely can.
Yeah. Here's the thing about my company at this point, though, is that the budgets they had for moving, what am I trying to say? Like people traveling for work were so high, where it was just like everybody had like company cars and travel budgets and, you know, like fucking credit cards and all this shit. And literally for the last year, everything's on fucking Zoom or WebEx or whatever. And so they're
Yeah,
like,
so they're saving all that money.
God, we have like fucking $3 million in the fucking bank that we didn't have, you know? So they're like,
Wow.
tax, we need a fucking tax haven this. Every employee gets a $250 bonus for doing so good during COVID. And you're like, oh, okay, fuck, I guess. You know, so
Yeah,
they've been doing that kind of shit a lot.
that's
Um,
tight. They
so
pay for our internet at ridiculousness. So
yeah, they should pay for our cell phones and that kind of shit since we all started working from home and everyone's basically like my cell phone is my desk phone. But so this laptop that they give us, like this is my work laptop and it works really fucking good, but I just like I can't just you know, like download Audacity or anything onto it.
yeah,
So I'm gonna get something, you know, I don't know. I think I can get an okay laptop for like $400. I don't know. I'm not I'm not the fucking Mr. Consumer Reports or anything, but I think I can pull that off. Just throw some money at Best Buy and come home with something that I can work with because I have like an old
yeah.
ass laptop that sucks. So
Just get one of the new MacBooks or whatever.
yeah, I'm glad you got that spinach out of your teeth about halfway through
Uh,
that.
and yeah, I didn't notice I had that.
I was
No.
just letting it go. I loved it. I was like, yeah, that's fine. He's doing great. That was a lot of fun though. It's weird to have this where I'm like I said, I'm trying to kind of like spread out my end of it, you know, where it's like I have a lot of experiences, but I don't want to tell the same stories over and over.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
where it's like I gotta kind of sprinkle it in as I go, you know, and let
I've had a problem on every podcast I've done where I'm like, don't overshare because 10 episodes in, you're out of fucking stories.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing is like the like little questionnaire has been good to sort of like it jogs my memory of my own experiences and then I'm like, okay, what three stories do I have that I would put with these three stories? And then, you know, I can kind of like billet it from there, you know,
Yeah.
in a way that makes sense. So um I think this was great. This was a lot of fun. I
Oh, I forgot a fun anecdote. Doesn't matter. But that time in Santa Clarita, we were so fucked up. I'd remembered this children's book that my mom used to read me.
mm-hmm.
And then it's called Snow Lion. I was like, you remember that book Snow Lion? And my friends were like, no, man. I'm a little bit older than a few of them. I was like, no, come on. You know, that's kid's story your mom used to read you. It's about a lion and he lives in the jungle and he takes vacation to see snow. And they're like, Rick, we don't know that. And I was like, we all had different lives. That's far out. Anyway, Snow Lion's about a lion. He lives in the jungle and he decides to go on a vacation because it's so fucking hot in the jungle. And so he packs his suitcase. I don't know why his suitcase because he didn't even fucking clothes. It's a guy. Everything the kids book is an animal that's really just some guy. Anyway, this lion, he's got a suitcase with no clothes because he's naked and he has a toothbrush and like a comb and shit in it because the lions got hair and they eat. And he goes up to the mountains to cool down and he finds snow and he's so fucking jazzed about snow. It's all slippery and cold and you can do stuff when it's fluffy and he wants to tell all his friends in the jungle about snow. So he's like, he packs that fucking suitcase full of snow, gets back down to the jungle. Everyone, yeah, you won't believe what I found in the mountains. There's this fluffy white shit. It's cold and you can slide around in. And go, I brought some to show you. And he opens it up and he's just this maniac standing there with water in a bag, you know, and they're like, the lions. He went to the mountains and he brought back a suitcase full of water, made us all look at it. And so he's a little distraught. And so he says, it must have got out. I promise you that I'm going to go back in. So now he goes back up and he puts the snow in his suitcase and he puts a big ass lock around it. Then he comes back down to the jungle and everyone gather around. That guy trapped it. And he dumps out a bag of water again. And they're like, this fucking guy, you know, luckily these friends, he's the king of the jungle. So they kind of got to stick with him. And he just goes, fuck, you got to come up there with me, I guess. So he takes everyone up the mountain. They have a big old fun day in the snow. And they're like, I've never heard, they all thought I made the story up. I had to fucking buy the book on eBay later. But I was like, I the whole time I was like, that's what doing mushrooms is kind of, because you try and explain this to people and they just think you sound like a lunatic. I go, because it's water in a bag, man. Like
Hmm.
you got to take people up the mountain or they're just never gonna get it. You're just gonna be some maniac standing around with water in a bag. And then on the way home, I called my mom on speakerphone. I go, Mom, you remember that story you used to read me, Snow Line, about the lion with the snow and the bag of water? She goes, No. And then my friend's like, What the fuck, man? I had to buy us all copies on eBay later that week.
It's a good analogy, though.
Yeah,
I
that's
like
what
it.
I always use for describe, like anything that can't really be described well. It just has to be experienced. It's a little pretentious. I'm like, it's kind of water in a bag. You just you gotta go up to the snow and check it out.
We used to have like